to try to do this the best I can with what I got. Okay, I'm doing this by webcam, and yeah, we're gonna do this very best possible. Okay, I want to talk about the idea of positioning with a lot of these Wing Chun skills. Okay, I want to cut the crap as far as it goes, and I want you to know about the idea that anybody really can do Wing Chun. It's just you can do the techniques all day long, but it happens to be like the theories and the understanding behind everything. That's what makes the system so difficult. Okay, so I'm gonna try to help you out as somebody who really wants you to learn the system, but correctly. Okay, and then on top of that, I don't want you to get into the necessarily the hype of the system. You know, just because of an Ip Man movie, I don't want you getting the hype of that. Just because this lineage does it this way and this lineage does another way, I don't want you getting caught up in the hype either. I want you to learn the system for what it is and what it truly can be. So let's get this into gear. There are some techniques in Wing Chun that no matter what happens, it's going to stay on a center line. Okay, my hand. Let me straighten up my hands a little bit more. Sometimes arthritis. Okay, sometimes they're a little bit broke, but there are some techniques that's going to stay on center no matter what. Wu Sao is one of them. Hyun Sao will be one of them. More or less, really more on your center line and not so much of the center line of the opponent or the relationship to the opponent, really, truthfully. It just works that way. When you're talking about center line, you have to ask the question, is it the center line based on me, myself, or is the center line based on me to the opponent? Is it that it's the center line based on the fact of having a mother core, the head and wherever it's turned and whatever, or the hips, wherever it's turned, that's the second mother core. So you can't just say everything is on center line without scientifically breaking down what is and what is not center line and to what degree. Okay. Another thing, so you have those techniques that's going to always be on center. Tan Sao, however, is one example I'm going to use today why it's just not on center. And then to prove that, I'm going to talk about Bu Sao. So here's my center line going in front of my nose all the way down. Here's Tan Sao. Now, you're not going to be able to punch with that being a center, as you can't guard and then at the same time punch on that same line, especially if the target is your head. You're not going to punch over your Sao hand, your receiving hand, your block hand, whatever you want to call it, okay? It's just not going to work that way. What has to be true is because you have one spine and because these arms, these legs, everything is working off of that spine. And the same goes for you, unless you got two spines, then that same space is not going to be occupied. It just can't. Not from your standpoint of yourself, not necessarily the standpoint of the human being. If it's the standpoint of a human being, if my hand is there, and their hand is there, somebody's going to play out the winner in that case of who has the better structure, whether the momentum is there, the timing, all of these things coming into play as to how that technique is going to pan out. So when saying this, okay, Tan Sao in the center line is going to spread a technique out towards the outside of the arm because that's what it's meant to do. Tan Sao's definition since 400 years or more back is to spread the technique. It's a spreading hand. That's the first definition. It's not the last. The second definition is the idea of actually dispersing. What is a disperse versus a spread? To disperse somebody means their body themselves are literally going out of context from the normal idea of spreading. If all the technique, if they punch and the punch goes down this line, guess what? Their body's practically still there. Okay. And it can still be in front of you. So then it kind of makes sense when you start learning Tanda. Because in Tanda's case, why would we punch here if the opponent's not there? Get it? It will make no sense. Wherever I turn with this tonsile from the center out, I should be able to punch. Now, there's two ways to spread, and there's two ways to spread and there's two ways to disperse, and it really depends on where the tonsile is. If my tonsile is right here in the middle, and I turn, and the person's still in front of me, and I punch, there goes the first part. The funny part is, when you do the turn, how can I say this? Most of you are not going to learn the turn unless you're in the Chum Q idea. And most of you are not going to learn the turn unless your teacher allows you to learn Chi Ma in a Sunum Dao state. So what happens if you don't have that? There goes the hypothesis. How can I get to the point of a Tanda and punch if I'm not going to turn? Because then I don't know Chi Ma. I probably don't know what How Ma is. I probably don't know these different techniques that's going to help it work out. If for some reason that tonsile can be defeated. So, how do we work that out? In the Sunum form, there's actually another tonsile. It is not that the technique is different, but it works with a different line. Okay? So, this tonsile and this tonsile is the same tonsile. The difference is, obviously you can see there is the center, my center being out. Why? Because I should be able to punch right from my center. This punch is gonna not only part of my defense, but it's part of my offense as well. It's my attack and my defense. If that's the case, okay, then when I get these emails, sometimes I get these emails and they'll mention the tonsile out of another section of the Sunum Dao, and they say it's not on center. When there are many lineages that no matter what they do, they stay on center. They miss the whole point, and then they wonder why the tonsile won't work well against a hook punch. It doesn't work well against a hook punch, not because of just the muscles alone. It doesn't work well as well because they don't understand or they're not identifying the second tonsile. The center, the third center in relation to the technique that William Chung talks about so much is kind of part of the idea of why there's even a shoulder line in the first place. Not that I'm a traditional Wing Chun at all, and most of the stuff I may not even agree with, but it does have its connection. So if I have a shoulder line here, it's going to do a lot better than a tonsile in the middle for a hook punch. Okay? The second thing is I still don't know the turn. Right? So if I still don't know the turn, what do I do? Right? The idea is a lot of people will go extend outward more to catch in the elbow. And sometimes will give this space that should not happen, right? So they have to keep more close to the body or fist away, doing a tonsile from a shoulder line. And it either one makes them want to turn, or two, they have to really spread out and then walk into the technique as they attack. That's the only two obvious solutions. I mean, there could be more, but I'm not here trying to act as if there's not any more ideas. And I'm not trying to give you saying that I know everything. I'm not trying to do that either. But to have that shoulder line, still, it doesn't go back and works extremely well. The center line of the tonsile, they actually have it on center, it doesn't go back, it works extremely well. If I don't have my elbow here attached when I try to do it, there's a lot more flap going on. Even if you have my fingers tied, tightly together, it's still too much of a flap. But when you have it like that, you see the sturdiness. So you can know that the anatomy works well with a certain tonsile, depending on how much feedback it actually gives you. And I did that for a reason. That feedback. Now, the other way you can know this for sure if it's going to work is the idea of Busao. Busao works on the center. Busao also works on the shoulder line. And a lot of Wing Chun people that will say keep the tonsile on center and it's only on center and whatever, but they will do a Busao on the shoulder line. If that's the case, then there has to be some sort of conclusion that many of Wing Chun skills, even though they need to be on a center line, can work off the shoulder line. Not like Wu Sao, not like Hyun Sao, but there's a lot of techniques that can work from a shoulder line that can still be strong enough to protect you while you're dealing with punching. Whether in some cases, some people will try to even try to do a fook and punch, most like this, even though this is wrong. I wouldn't do this. I would do Jut Sao, which is a form of fook, right? And in that case, I can do that same technique. So I wouldn't put a flappy finger hand out fook like that, knowing that there are chin now lockers out there, people that can grapple your fingers and snap it. So the whole point of this video is merely trying to educate you towards not only understanding Wing Chun Kung Fu better, but it's also trying to help you understand why it can be better and the science of it. I teach more of the science, the anatomy, the kinesiology of it, and I try to get you to understand that because the combat and all that will work when it works, okay? I don't have to teach that, even though I do. So in that case, I just want to say thank you for watching this video. It'll be uploaded soon.